Hey everyone, we've been doing a Hidden Secret series, so gather round because today we're peeling back the curtain on a hidden gem at Dollywood that often goes unnoticed. See, there's a special church tucked away in the heart of all the theme park excitement. And well, as most churches do, it's got some secrets waiting to be spilled. This church isn't just any church. It's the Robert F. Thomas Chapel. So who was this doctor? Contrary to many people's belief that it was named due to the doctor's connection to Dolly, the chapel was actually built and dedicated to Dr. Thomas in 1973 when the park was Gold Rush Junction, way before Dollywood existed. Robert Foley Thomas was born in Pennsylvania in 1891. And after college graduation, he served as a missionary in Malaysia for several years. When he returned, he borrowed $100 to get married and worked digging potatoes to get through medical school in New York. Dr. Thomas graduated and was assigned to the Pittman Center Methodist Mission in Tennessee, which was said to be about a day-long car ride from Newport and 2 days by wagon from Sevierville. The mountain folks in this area were cautious of strangers, like Dr. Thomas, but he earned their respect. He was probably the only physician in these parts and would even travel to their homes by either jeep or mainly horseback or on foot to impoverished communities of Cocke County and Sevier County like Cosby, Jones Cove, Webb Creek, and Caton's Chapel. He treated the sick, he delivered babies, and performed surgeries. And his pay came in the form of eggs, chickens, hogs, or produce.
Even if they didn't have money, often I've heard they saying, "Well, I sure hate it, Doc, that I ain't got no money to pay with now. But if you don't get paid in this life, you sure get paid in heaven."
He also acted as a missionary preacher to these remote parts as well, traveling and delivering Sunday messages. Well, on one cold day, on January 19th, 1946, the doctor traveled to the Parton's house at the direction of Mr. Parton. And on that day, he delivered Dolly Rebecca Parton in exchange for a sack of cornmeal. Dolly wrote a song about Dr. Thomas, found on her album entitled My Tennessee Mountain Home. Dr. Thomas died on Good Friday in 1980 at the age of 88 and is still remembered for his dedication to provide spiritual comfort and medical care to everyone. In fact, there is even a Dr. Robert F. Thomas Foundation that continues to exist today. Okay, so let's talk about the design of this chapel named after this legendary doctor. For one thing, it cost less than $35,000 when it was built in 1973, and it was purposefully made to look like an old Appalachian church. Very simple, very rustic. The strong faith-based community donated many items for this church. For example, the windows came from an early school in the area, and so did the chapel bell. Some pews came from an old courthouse. More pews and the doors came from a local Methodist church, and it dates back to the late 1800s. Further, the beautiful stained glass from the early 1900s was donated from a local church in honor of James Davis. He was known as Deacon Davis. He was a local evangelist who promoted the chapel there at Gold Rush Junction. During this time, many states were subject to blue laws, or so-called Sunday closing laws or Sabbath laws, which just simply meant that most things were closed on Sundays to protect the Christian Sabbath. But with a chapel and a church service within Gold Rush Junction, this allowed for Sunday worship in a theme park. Now, years later, Dollywood did remodel the chapel in the 1990s, and one thing that was added by the talented woodcarvers was the beautiful tall carving of Jesus as the Good Shepherd. But here's the thing, It's not just a set piece. This chapel still actually hosts Sunday services. Now, how many places in today's modern era can you say that there's a church inside a theme park? I've attended several of these 30-minute Sunday services, and I always enjoy them. Normally, the services are held each Sunday at 11:30 a.m. during the regular season, but at 5:30 p.m. during the Smoky Mountain Christmas Festival. These services are held by volunteer employees of Dollywood. The chapel is open while the park is open, so even if you don't attend one of the services, take a moment to just step inside the chapel anyway, sit a spell, look around, just to capture a moment of indescribable peace. If you look around the chapel, you'll notice other things that kind of take you back in time, like the restored piano, which dates back to the early 1900s. Quilts depicting biblical scenes are hung on the walls. And there's Bibles and old hymnal books. They're placed on the wooden pews for use during the service. There's also a booklet that gets bound every year where you can sign your name or write a prayer request, or perhaps just stop and say a silent prayer for someone. And although they don't do weddings inside the chapel, there's a neat tradition of many couples getting engaged here. It is a peaceful area of the park, perfect for a quiet moment of reflection. You can sit on the benches outside, breathe in the fresh mountain air, and let the serenity of the chapel's surroundings sink into your spirit. So next time you're at Dollywood, visit the Robert F. Thomas Chapel. Step inside. Feel the history now that you know the story. Maybe catch a Sunday service if you can. And just appreciate the simplicity and the beauty of this tucked away gem. It's not just a church, it's a piece of Dollywood's soul. So until next time, may your days be filled with joy and peace. Make a great journey.